Have you ever looked at your grown children and felt a distance you couldn't quite explain? You love them more than anything in this world, but the way they speak to you, it just feels different now, doesn't it? That feeling often starts small, an ignored phone call, a piece of advice that's quickly dismissed. But I have seen it in my own practice for over 30 years. This small gap can widen into a painful, lonely canyon of isolation. And here is the nightmare that no one talks about. It's not just about hurt feelings. It's about the slow, silent erosion of your place in the very family you built from the ground up, leaving you to quietly wonder if you've become more of a burden than a respected parent. So, your first instinct might be to get angry, to remind them of everything you've sacrificed. But as a family doctor who has sat with hundreds of families going through this exact struggle, I can tell you that is the one reaction almost guaranteed to push them further away. There is a quieter, far more powerful way to handle this. I'm not just talking about theory. I'm thinking of a patient of mine right now. A wonderful father who felt he was fading into the background of his own family's life. He tried arguing, tried reminding them of the past, but it only built a higher wall between them. The solution that finally brought his family closer was surprising and had nothing to do with confrontation. That's why in this video we aren't going to talk about blaming your children. Instead, I'm going to share with you 6 powerful practical shifts you can start making today. These are simple actions that don't require arguments or drama, but they can completely transform how your children see and treat you. Everything I'm sharing comes not from a textbook, but from decades of real conversations with people just like you. And please make sure you stay for the 6th and final point. It's the one my patients find the most difficult to do at first, but it is the ultimate key to not only regaining their respect, but also finding your own joy again. Before we dive in, I truly want to know how many of us have felt this way. If what I've just shared feels familiar to you, please take a moment and comment a simple yes below. It lets me know you're here, and it shows others in our community that they are not alone. Okay, let's get started. Let's begin with the very first step. Action number 1. Stop chasing their approval. The most common trap I see parents fall into is the belief that if they just do more for their children, if they bend over backward, always say yes, and drop everything at a moment's notice, then their children will surely appreciate and respect them more. This comes from a place of deep love, of course, but psychologically, the opposite is almost always true. Constantly chasing their approval sends a quiet subconscious signal that your own needs, your own time, and your own feelings come second. You are inadvertently teaching them that your boundaries are flexible and that your schedule is less important than theirs. Why does this pattern become so much more common as we get older? It often stems from a natural, very human fear of being left out or becoming irrelevant in our children's busy lives. We try to make ourselves useful to be indispensable, hoping it will keep them close. But this strategy often backfires. Instead of feeling gratitude, our children begin to feel a sense of entitlement. Your generosity is no longer seen as a gift, but as an expectation. This leads to a set of very familiar, painful symptoms, a feeling of being taken for granted, a deep, bone-weary exhaustion from always being the one to give in, and underneath it all, a quiet resentment begins to build, a sad feeling of being invisible in your own family. This reminds me so much of a patient of mine, a wonderfully strong woman named Carol. She had raised 3 children, mostly on her own, and was the very definition of resilience. But in her later years, as her children built their own families, she started to lose her voice. She would cancel her weekly bridge game with friends if one of her kids needed a last-minute babysitter. She'd bite her tongue when she disagreed with their choices. She'd always say, "Oh, whatever you kids want to do is fine with me," even when it wasn't. She told me she thought she was being a peacemaker, that she was keeping the family happy. But what her children saw was someone who didn't seem to have a life of her own. And without even realizing it, they started to value her less. The solution isn't to become demanding or selfish. It's to practice self-respect first. The first step is simple but powerful. The next time you want to say no, say it calmly, kindly, but firmly. You don't need a long excuse. A simple, "That sounds lovely, but I already have plans for that afternoon," is more than enough. You are not rejecting them. You are honoring yourself. And when you begin to honor yourself, they will have no choice but to follow your lead. If this idea of putting yourself first resonates with you, please comment the word self-respect below. It's a powerful reminder for all of us. Action number 2. Don't argue. Lead by example. When you're treated with disrespect, when your opinion is dismissed, or you're spoken over at the dinner table, our gut reaction is to defend ourselves, to argue our point, to raise our voice to prove that we are right and that we deserve to be heard. Our generation was often taught to speak up and fight for our place. But in these delicate family dynamics, that instinct can be incredibly damaging. Here's why. Arguing immediately puts you on their level and, in a strange way, gives them control over your emotions. When you meet their disrespect with anger, you are essentially confirming their power over you. You are showing them that they can push a button and get a predictable emotional reaction. A calm, dignified presence in the face of disrespect is infinitely more powerful than any angry outburst could ever be. It shows an unshakable inner strength that cannot be manipulated. It communicates that your peace of mind is not up for debate. This is a lesson that can be hard to learn. I think of Richard, a retired high school principal I've known for years. He was a man who was used to commanding a classroom with just a look. But at home, his grown children had fallen into the habit of treating him like he was, well, old and out of touch. They would interrupt his stories, roll their eyes at his advice. At first, he fought back. He'd raise his voice, trying to assert the authority he once had. The family dinners became tense, miserable affairs. Then he tried a new tactic, something we had discussed. The next time his son interrupted him mid-sentence, Richard simply stopped talking. He didn't sigh. He didn't glare. He just went silent and looked at his son with a calm, patient expression. The sudden quiet in the room was more profound than any shouting ever was. His son faltered, suddenly aware of his own rudeness, and said, "Sorry, Dad, go on." Richard didn't have to win an argument. He won respect with his composure. So, the next time you are dismissed, I want you to resist the urge to engage in a fight. Instead, try one of these two things. Either pause and hold a calm, quiet silence, just as Richard did, or simply say, "I see we disagree on this," and then gracefully change the subject. You are showing them through your actions that you don't need to win a verbal battle to be a figure of respect. Your dignity speaks for itself. Action number 3. Withdraw your emotional dependence. It's one of the most natural things in the world to want our children to be a source of our happiness. We love them deeply, and we want to feel that love and connection in return. But a problem arises when they become our only source of happiness and emotional fulfillment. When your entire week is made or broken by whether or not they call, you have given them a power that is frankly too much for them to carry. From a psychological standpoint, this kind of emotional dependency feels like a heavy burden to adult children. It creates a sense of obligation, not genuine affection. They begin to feel responsible for your happiness, and that is a job they never applied for and cannot possibly succeed at. Instead of looking forward to your calls, they may start to see them as a chore, a duty they have to perform, to prevent you from feeling sad. This can lead to resentment, and they may start to pull away, creating the very distance you were afraid of in the first place. I remember a lovely patient of mine, Susan. After her husband passed away, her children became her entire world. She was a wonderful mother, but she would call them multiple times a day. Her voice often tinged with a loneliness they could feel through the phone. She would tell them how much she missed them, how quiet the house was. She felt she was showing them love, but what they felt was guilt. Her happiness depended entirely on their attention, and that pressure was pushing them away. The solution, she found over time, was to rediscover her own sources of joy. Your task is to find happiness that has absolutely nothing to do with your children. I want you to think about what used to make you feel alive before you were a parent, or what you've always wanted to try. Join a book club, take a gardening class, volunteer at the local library. Call an old friend you haven't spoken to in years. The goal is to fill your own life with so much purpose and interest that your children's attention becomes a wonderful bonus, not a desperate necessity. When you next speak with them, you'll have something new and exciting from your life to share. Your energy will shift from neediness to vibrancy, and that vibrant, independent energy is magnetic. It inspires respect. This is a big one. If you agree that finding your own happiness is the key, comment on the word independence below. Action number 4. Set boundaries and enforce them. One of the most direct reasons children lose respect for their parents is quite simply because the parents allow them to. We often fail to set clear boundaries because we confuse it with being confrontational, unkind, or unloving. We tell ourselves, "Oh, it's not worth the fight," or "That's just how he is." But every time we stay silent in the face of disrespect, we are giving silent permission for it to happen again. It's crucial to understand this. Boundaries are not walls you build to keep people out. They are instructions you provide on how to treat you with respect. And this is especially true within families. Families will only ever treat you as well as you require them to. If there are no consequences for crossing a line, they will cross it again and again. This isn't because they are bad people. It's because it's human nature to test the limits. Your job is to gently but firmly show them where the limits are. I think of David, a retired executive who was used to being in charge his entire life. He was a confident, decisive man, but with his adult children, he became a pushover. They would casually criticize his financial decisions or make sarcastic remarks about his lifestyle. For years, he just let it slide, telling himself it was just harmless banter. But he admitted to me that it was chipping away at his confidence, making him feel foolish in his own home. One day, he decided he'd had enough. When his son started to lecture him about his investments, David didn't get angry. He simply held up a hand and said calmly, "Son, I appreciate your concern, but my finances are my own to manage. We're not going to discuss this topic anymore." The first time was awkward. His son was taken aback, but David held his ground. After a couple more attempts where David calmly repeated his boundary, the behavior stopped. His son learned that the line was firm. Your task is to decide on just one non-negotiable boundary. Maybe it's about their tone of voice. Maybe it's about giving unsolicited advice. Or perhaps it's about making last-minute demands on your time. Whatever it is, you need to be prepared to state it simply and without anger, then enforce it. For example, if the issue is their tone, a calm, "Please don't speak to me in that tone of voice," is enough. If they continue, you can say, "I'm not going to continue this conversation while you're speaking to me this way," and then physically leave the room. You are not starting a fight. You are ending a disrespectful interaction. You are teaching them how to treat you. Action number 5. Stop giving without appreciation. As parents, giving is in our nature. It's one of our greatest joys to support our children. But there is a dangerous line crossed when endless one-way giving is met not with gratitude, but with entitlement. When this happens, giving no longer builds love or connection. It breeds disrespect. The psychological reason for this is simple. Unreciprocated giving devalues the gift. When your time, financial help, or energy is always available, without question and without thanks, it stops being seen as something valuable. It becomes a baseline expectation. Think about it. When people don't have to earn something or acknowledge its value, they rarely appreciate it. They don't feel grateful when you give. They feel annoyed and inconvenienced when you finally stop. I saw this pattern with a patient named Bill. Bill was the family fixer. If a car broke down, if someone needed help with a down payment, if a grandchild needed watching on short notice, Bill was the first and only call. He would drop everything, rearranging his own life to help solve their problems. But he admitted he hadn't heard the words "thank you" in years. Instead, he received complaints when he wasn't available or couldn't do more. He was no longer a beloved father. He was a free 24-hour concierge service. The breaking point came when he had a minor health scare and needed help, but his children were suddenly too busy. His perspective changed profoundly. He stopped offering help. He just stopped. He didn't announce it. He waited to be asked. And when they did ask, he paused and genuinely considered whether it worked for him before saying yes or no. For the first time, his children had to recognize that his time and resources were not unlimited. Suddenly, his help became a valued resource again, not an open faucet. They started saying thank you. They started appreciating him because they finally understood that his generosity was a choice, a gift, not a guarantee. So I want you to honestly examine your own patterns. Are you giving more than you should? Are you giving to those who don't appreciate it? Your solution is to take a step back. Stop being the first to offer. Let them come to you. And when you do give, be mindful. If it's not acknowledged or appreciated, it's perfectly okay to give less next time. This isn't about punishment. It's about teaching them that your generosity is a treasure and deserves to be treated as such. Action number 6. Build a life outside of them. This is the final and perhaps most powerful action of all. One of the most effective ways to regain your children's respect is to show them through your actions that your happiness does not revolve around them. If your entire world is centered on your children and grandchildren, with your only news being theirs, you inadvertently send the message that you don't have a life of your own. People are generally drawn to and respect others who have their own purpose, passions, and interests. A full life is attractive and admirable. When your children see that you are fulfilled and engaged with the world on your own terms, they start to see you differently. You transform from someone they have to check on out of duty into someone they genuinely want to be around out of interest and admiration. Seeing you live, not just exist and wait for their attention, will make their respect for you grow exponentially. This is the story of Betty, a widow in her late 70s whose life after her husband's passing sadly shrank to just waiting for her children to visit. She was lonely, and that loneliness was evident in every conversation. On my advice, she reluctantly joined a local gardening club. She insisted she didn't have a green thumb, but she went anyway. At first, it was just something to do. But then something incredible happened. She discovered she loved it. She made new friends. She started entering local competitions. Soon, she was so busy with her new friends and her prize-winning roses that she actually missed a few calls from her children. They were fascinated. They started calling more, genuinely curious about her new life. "Mom, what's this I hear about you winning a blue ribbon?" She was no longer just Mom, a figure of obligation. She was Betty, the award-winning gardener. She had her own stories, her own successes. They admired her independence. They respected her. So your final and most important task is this week. Do one thing purely for yourself. Visit that museum you've been meaning to see. Take that painting class. Go to the library and pick out a stack of books on a topic you love. Start building a life so interesting and full that their attention becomes a welcome addition, not a necessity for your happiness. When you show them that you are the vibrant, fascinating main character of your own story, they will be eager to take on a supporting role. So, as we come to the end of our time together, I want you to think back to that image we started with, that quiet, painful canyon growing between you and your children. That feeling of a slowly widening distance. What I hope you see now, after exploring these 6 actions, is that you hold the tools to build a bridge across it. It's a bridge built not with heavy stones of demand or guilt, but with strong, steady planks of self-respect and mutual admiration. A future like Betty's where she is thriving on her own terms, surrounded by family who are drawn to her vibrant spirit. That is not a fairy tale. It is possible for you too. If there is just one thing you take away from our conversation today, let it be this. You cannot control how your children act, but you have absolute control over how you carry yourself and how you respond. True lasting respect from them will only come when they see the deep and unwavering respect you have for yourself. And so, as we wrap up, we've explored 6 critical shifts that can truly transform your relationships. But knowledge is only powerful when we put it into action. So, now I have one important question just for you. What is the one small commitment you are making to yourself this week after watching this video? It could be as simple as I will say no just once, or I will take 30 minutes for my hobby without feeling guilty. Please share that personal promise in the comments below. Reading them inspires me, and more importantly, your commitment will inspire others in our community to take that first brave step. And if you found real value in our time together, a simple like on this video is a wonderful way to show it. To make sure you don't miss our next conversation, please hit that subscribe button. It's more than just a click. It's you joining a community of people dedicated to living their golden years with dignity, joy, and purpose. Finally, think of just one other parent, one friend who might be feeling the same way and is struggling in silence. Please share this video with them. You never know whose heart you might lift today. Thank you for spending your valuable time with me. Be kind to yourself, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.